super engaged, like you said. He hits his spots. So in terms of the overall plan, you can kind of, especially in center field, you can see how it's working. Everything doesn't miss too often. So, from that standpoint, it's good. Plan works really well.
I think more than anything, we behind him just appreciate how much he competes and how much he prepares. I mean, this is a guy who's, tied for first amongst anybody I've ever played with as far as competitive spirit and preparation. So he's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to go out there and battle with somebody that is given every ounce of everything they can to have success that day.
Mark?
Hey, Matt, just thinking ahead to Sunday, how would you describe kind of the atmosphere at Busch Stadium for playoff games?
I mean, it's as good as any venue you're going to see in sports. Just a crowd that is, well known for being extremely knowledgeable about the game, very passionate. They're there from, April to September, and then they get the opportunity to be rewarded for those October games, and they show up, ready to cheer and ready to be excited, and it's just special. There's no better place than Busch Stadium in October.
Matt, for all the big playoff moments you've had in your career with the way that Schulte is utilized in the lineup right now, the spots you're going to be in are going to be exclusively for big moments. I mean, does that sort of concentrate that feeling and make that even more intense here in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, for one, it's something that, I enjoy. I certainly don't shy away from at all. And, he's been very open with me about, what my role is and how those moments are going to be given to me. And, give me plenty of time on the bench to get ready, keeping a heads up. Like there were 2 times earlier in the game yesterday that I thought I might take an at bat, and then it ended up working out in the 8th. But, yeah, I mean, I'm certainly enjoy those moments. I don't shy away from them, and love to do whatever I can to help us.
Maria?
Up here. Back to Jack. How have both of you seen him blossom into that competitive spirit? I know you've both been around him plenty, so just curious how that's worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively close with him, especially coming up through the system with him. Spent a lot of time with him, on the field and off the field. So I feel like earlier in the year, there's always like that one inning where something kind of not exploded, but things kind of transpired a little bit and kind of started to roll a little bit, and he was out of the game. And just, I've always kind of said, if he just had the ability to just, I guess, not have that happen and keep that focus, and that's all he's done this past second half. And just to see that and see, because you never really figure anything out in this game. You're always working, you're always gathering knowledge, whatever it may be. So his ability to just consistently get better and work towards where he's at now, I mean, it's just awesome. So not only as a friend, but also as a teammate, to just see him shut those innings down where things might get a little chippy, I guess. To see him push through that and work on that mental side, I mean, it's awesome. That's all you could ask for.
The biggest thing that I've noticed about Jack and how he's grown up into what we've seen, especially the second half, is my first impression of him, the first time I ever saw him in spring training, was this is a guy who's got a ton of emotion and, very passionate worker and very competitive. And the biggest thing that I've seen him do over the last year, especially in the second half, is channel his emotion, his competitive spirit, and use it to his advantage. I think early on we saw, his first couple starts in the big leagues in his rookie year, a guy who could sometimes let that emotion get the best of him. And emotion in this game, especially in the postseason, can be pivotal, can be something that you can really, channel and use to your advantage. And I think that's what we've seen with Jack. He's just done such a good job of channeling that emotion, competitive spirit into success.
Derek?
Carp, to kind of follow up on that, do you see that same kind of learning curve over the years as much as you've been with Carlos Martinez? Have you seen that same kind of thing with him and how he kind of reins in his emotion?
Yeah, I think it's evident with every player that that plays this game long enough. You either do that or the game gets the best of you. I mean, I think that Carlos has done a good job of being able to rein back some of his emotion on the field and channel his energy as well. And I think that's what the great ones do as time goes on, is they figure out a way to use what, their God-given ability, the things that they're born with, which, high energy guys with a ton of passion out there, the guys that are able to control that and use it to their advantage have a lot of success in this game. Carlos has done a good job of that as well.
Ben.
For Harrison, can you describe what you've seen from Flaherty's connection to Cardinal history and the greats of the past? He tweets about it, he talks about it sometimes to us. Have you noticed that too?
What a question.
Well, we'll see about the answer.
Connections to Cardinals history.
Bob Gibson, some of the Adam Wainwright, some of the great starters
Yeah.
that he's now channeling.
That's a good question. No, I mean, obviously I've never seen Bob Gibson pitch, just seen clips. I've seen Waino pitch a couple years now. I can't necessarily draw any comparisons physically, but what I can see, again, from the clips I have seen of Gibson and, working with Waino the past couple of years is just, again, the passion and the level of focus behind those guys. Everybody has a different way of going about in this game, whether you're on the defensive side or offensive side. So the biggest thing is just finding what works for you the best and just being the best version of yourself, emotionally, physically. So with that said, I mean, the way those guys carry themselves. You have another question?
Well, I was just saying, I think the word I should have said was an appreciation. Do you sense that he has an appreciation for the pitchers of the past?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all do, We all have respect for, especially in this organization. Guys come back so often. They're always present in the clubhouse. We're always commemorating, different players, whether it be, with the red jackets or just some type of ceremony. So, we definitely do have an appreciation for it. And just a tremendous amount of respect for our Cardinals history. So I hope I answered that adequately.
I think Jack has a fondness and a mutual respect for Gibby and Carp specifically because their styles are similar. Jack pitches with a lot of anger. I mean, like a lot. And it's respected and it's feared. And as his career goes on, it'll become even more feared. And that's what Gibby and Carp are all about. So I think that's kind of what you're saying, maybe.
Anything else for these guys? Derek?
Carp, when you first kind of came on the scene with the Cardinals in the majors, you had a role that was sometimes pinch hit, sometimes, play. It was a little bit like it is now. How different is how you prepare for that role, and how different is your appreciation of that role now than, say, when you started?
Well, yeah, I mean, my very first full season in the big leagues was pretty similar to how this one has played out for me. And I think the biggest difference is just the maturity of understanding the situations, how the bench is going to be used. I mean, my first year, I remember coming home after games and didn't even get in the game and was more tired and emotionally drained and physically drained than I would if I would have played, just because of how stressful and the high anxiety being a rookie and not knowing, what's going to happen, how's this game going to play out. And I think the biggest thing, and one of the reasons why I've been able to, have some success in this role is, I'm prepared and ready for every situation. I'm, one step ahead, if not on the same page with Schulte in every move he makes. So having that experience is critical in that role because it's not an easy job. I mean, playing off the bench for anybody, myself, Jose Martinez, are all of our guys that do it. It can be a very stressful, tough job, and it's just having that experience in 2012 certainly helps.
Mark?
For Harrison, the other center fielder in this series is kind of a lightning rod today for admiring home runs, et cetera. MLB has this whole campaign, "We Play Loud." You're sort of from that generation of player. What do you think of sort of that question of, that style of play, admiring home runs, et cetera?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do like the campaign for sure. I think it's good because, I mean, there's so much emotion involved in this game, you know, and you respect your opponent, of course, but you know, the motivation for players and where the emotion comes from really does come from wanting to do well for your teammates and always rooting for your teammates. So being loud for them, you know, appreciating the level of competition, you know, it's never out of disrespect. So with that said, that's my mindset. So every ounce of joy that comes from a win out here or any big play, it is loud because of all the emotions that are tied to it, because it is a team effort, especially where the game's kind of developed and specialty, you know, out of the pens and whatnot. I mean, there's just so many different roles that players are plunged into. So just the level of support that we all have for each other is important. And I think a really good way of doing that is, again, just to be loud and show emotion and just be happy, because, I mean, it's an absolute thrill going out there and playing. And this is my first atmosphere, so to kind of be here and seeing, you know, the chop and whatever, I mean, it's just cool. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm just going to go out there and continue to be loud for my teammates.
Right here in front.
Carp, when you were starting over the past couple of weeks when Colton was hurt, we talked about Jose sort of leading that bench mafia, and we asked him then if he has to, like, jump you back in when things change. Do you have to jump back into bench mafia, or do you get your spot immediately right back once you're
Yeah, I guess it was reserved for me. So I'm just slide right back into it.
Right here in the middle.
Matt, looking ahead to Game 3 a little bit, it's going to be a pretty familiar scene at Busch Stadium in the sense that Waino's on the mound and Yadier's behind the plate. You've been around those two just as much as anybody. Can you expound on their relationship and how you've seen it evolve over the years?
Yeah, you know, those two have been part of a lot of big games, a lot of special games. I think I read something the other day. This is going to be Waino's first postseason start in 5 years, which is hard to believe, you know, that it's been that long. But if there's any person in that locker room and that you know is going to be prepared and ready for that moment, it's Adam. And, you know, he's just a special guy. I mean, obviously we know what Yadi is and, you know, who he is and what he brings to the table and the postseason moments he's had. And Waino's right there, up there with him, you know, as far as, you know, the big moments and going out there. And both those guys, they're just certain guys in that locker room that you just get a sense of, you know, peace and knowing that, you know, we got a chance to win today. And Adam's certainly at the top of that list, and getting to see him go out there and compete and do it with Yadi behind the plate, it's certainly, you know, brings back a lot of good memories, and hopefully, you know, we'll build some new ones.
Kelsey.
For both or either of you guys, Harrison, you were asked about Acuna last night. I mean, it's been a big storyline, especially for the Atlanta media. And we know 90 feet in the postseason is huge. Is that play as big of a deal in y'all's eyes as the opponent? Did it impact the game as much as we're talking about it in the media when he didn't hustle out of the box on what should have been that double?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just like to always keep my head, you know, in our clubhouse. That's for them to kind of worry about and focus on. I don't really have a comment to make on it. You know, it just goes to show you, regardless of the situation, whether it's that situation or something else, you know, every run matters. Every play matters, especially when you're fighting for your life so much in this, you know. So, you know, with that said, it's not to add any pressure to anybody, but it's just the reality of the situation is you just always have to play the game the right way. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo that, I mean, you know, this is the biggest stage that this game is played on. Everything is under a microscope. You know, every pitch, every play, every base running mistake, both good or bad. So, knowing that, you know, you got to be prepared to accept anything that happens, whether it's positive or negative. And you know, we're very adamant in our clubhouse about playing, you know, hard, playing the right way, doing the little things, and you know, that's what wins ball games at the end of the day. So, you know, we're going to go out there and continue to do that.